Do you think some of these guys are scared they get exposed in King of the Court one-on-one?
Well, I don't know why you would be scared, because I remember when I was at USA Basketball, and they basically was playing King of the Court, but they was playing mid-post, you know what I mean? That video got out. And look how lit that was. You got KD, you got Paul George, you got Devin Booker, you got Victor Oladipo was out there, Chris Middleton was out there. You had all those guys that are shot creators, tough shot makers. James Harden was out there. Like, those guys are doing it at a high level. I think like the league would love to see that.
Who do you think would win? What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Point Game, presented by DraftKings. Don't forget, DraftKings is your home for all the action across the NBA and gets you closer to the game we all love. The crown is yours. Now, I'm one of your hosts, C.J. Toledano. You might know me from House of Highlights, Follow Through, but we all know I'm not the reason we're here. So without further ado, I want to introduce my permanent co-host, the reason why we have this show. Give you a little credits here. 5-time NBA All-Star, former number 1 overall pick, Optimus Dime himself. Now, I want to know the story behind that nickname. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my co-host, John Wall. John, how you feeling, man?
What's up, man? I'm super excited to be here, man. Everybody been telling me for a while to get on the podcast, so I'm glad I can be able to do this with you and just have some fun, man. Just talk about the game of basketball and just tell people what my experience has been about life of being in the NBA and all that.
Yeah, before we move on, I just want to be like, everyone knows there's so many player podcasts right now, from players, in the league and out of the league, like hovering around it. But I remember when we were like, we got to do this pod, I was like immediately John Wall, because I remember listening to that Theo Pinson interview, just all the knowledge and wisdom and stories you dropped. I was like, we got to have this dude on a regular basis. So how excited are you to be doing this pod with us?
Super excited, man. For me, I'm just like, I feel like I'm just, a lot of people use the word real. I just don't like to use that so much. I just like to say I'm just going to be honest. Like, I'd rather just be honest and be 100 with you at all times. And that's how my mom raised me. And either some people going to like it, some people not going to like it, you know what I mean? But in the day, like, I know I'm just being myself at all times, and I'm not trying to fit in to be nobody else. And I think that's why a lot of people respect me.
Yeah. Now, I like to say a hardcore basketball fan, like I know ball, and I will prove it through this series. But I think you have some gas in your tank, but we all know the politics of the NBA and whatnot. So let us know, like, you're not on a squad right now. You were on the Clippers last. What have you been up to?
Just working out, man. Just working out, staying ready. But most importantly, man, just being a dad. Enjoying the time to be around my boys, man, raising my kids. Being able to take them to school, pick them up from school, take them to their activities, go to their school plays, watching them sing in little Christmas parades and stuff like that. My kids just started boxing last week, so just excited to put them in a lot of things. And when you're on a team, you're traveling a lot. And like my situation, if I was like in DC still, then my family would live there. You know what I mean? Because they would be there. But like if you like on a team for like maybe 6 months or a year, you don't know how long you're gonna be there. It's kind of hard to move your family there. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. Like, you look at Danny Green's situation. He was about to be on the team. Then they ended up cutting him. And then his family had just started school. Then he got to find somewhere else to put him. Like, that's always the toughest part. So, if I don't know if I got a longevity over there, I wouldn't bring my kids and my family. So, being able to be there with them every day, wake them up, take them to practice, take them to school, do all these type of things, I'm enjoying that and embracing that, being a father. And that's something I put pride in.
And that's actually kind of interesting, and a big point of, like, again, I come from NBA Twitter in that world, and we don't know, like, the nuances of being an NBA player. Now, you mentioned Danny Green or people like, players like Ish Smith or whatever, who are kind of these NBA journeymen. Like, you talked about it a little bit, but what happens if you're on a new squad every year? Do you have, like, a main spot in the country, and then are you bringing your family out? Like, how does that work?
Well, for me, kind of like when I went to Houston, I didn't know how long I was going to be there. You know what I mean? Like, I thought I was going to be there long term. So, you know what I mean? It happened so fast. I didn't have time to go buy a house with no need. So I just rented a condo, penthouse condo, and just stayed there. You know what I mean? And then my family would come down and come to games. But it was still tough, though, because it was COVID at the time. Yeah. So Houston was one of the places that allowed you to have fans, but a certain amount. So I was able to have my kids come down there and watch me, see me play a little bit. When I was in L.A., I rented a crib, because I had time to prepare for that. Like, I'd signed in the summer, so I knew what I wanted. And I wanted a spot where I can just feel like I'm at home. You know what I mean? Like, when my kids come, they got a backyard and stuff like that, because my kids like to be outside. They like to do stuff. And when I went to Houston, it was kind of tough, but it was a COVID year, so it wasn't too frustrating. But I don't know how a lot of people do it, but for me, it depends on like what the price of range is for a house at that time being, or I have enough time to rent one. Then I'm cool with renting. But I think like guys that go in and buy and not knowing how long they're gonna be there, that's kind of difficult.
Yeah, I think with this pod too, I'm like, okay, here's my biggest fear, John, and it's also what I want to happen is you get signed by a team, like 10-day for the rest of the season, and you said you're taking care of your body and you're working out. So what does your daily life look like outside of doing this pod? Like, how are you staying ready?
6:30, 7 o'clock, get up. Sometimes I take the kids to school. Sometimes I help them get dressed. Then my workout start at 8:30. It's either basketball at first at 9, or it's lifting at my house. I turn my whole garage into a gym. I have almost every equipment you can have to make sure you're ready. And then I go court to weightlifting, or I go weightlifting to court. I'm probably doing it like 12 every day. You know what I mean? 'Cause I try to give myself time to have my first meal at 1, be able to shower, relax, run whatever errands I might have to run, or pick my kids up from school if I have to. So I try to get my day done by 12, and Miami traffic ain't no good.
That's dope. Okay, so for anyone who's listening to this and doesn't know who John is, one, watch basketball in the last like 20 years. But I remember, this is a story I always knew about you because I've been a fan. And I was like, this seems like an urban legend, but then I saw you post about it on your Instagram. And so the first time like you got sort of put on the map, and I think you know the story I'm going to ask you about, 2007, you were 17 years old, and you took an 18-hour cab ride from North Carolina to Chicago to try out. You weren't invited, but to try out for the Reebok Camp, which then led you to get ranked. So can you tell us some details about that story?
Well, I give you even more deeper details
Please.
into that, man. I used to be on Scout.com every day, looking at everybody that's ranked Rivals.com, and I'm like, bro, I can be up here. Like, I'm nice. I'm just as nice as them. It's just, shout out to David West. Like, that's the first AAU team I ever played with, Garner Road Bulldogs. You know what I mean? So that's how I ever got the opportunity to even be in AAU and understand what that was about, and being able to travel and see things. And Brian Clifton that used to run D1 Sports, like Eric Wallace, Marshall Moses, all those guys came out of there. Me, Quincy Miller, JT Terrell, so many guys came out of there. And they was a team that was traveling, like being at the big showcase tournaments and things like that, sponsored by Reebok. And I had the opportunity to get on the circuit with them that summer. But we drove all the way from North Carolina to Chicago, me and JT Terrell and Brian Clifton. And it was the Reebok underclassmen camp.
Yeah.
So I think before it was that, before they changed it from ABCD camp, that camp used to be called Camp Next in Jersey.
Gotcha.
So we go there, and they was like, we only take 5 players from this camp. They get to go to the big camp, Reebok U, which used to be called ABCD camp, but they changed the Reebok U. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to be one of these 5. Like, I don't care who's here, what's going on. Funny thing is, the first day I'm late, I got a mohawk. For one, I'm already walking in there with a mohawk. Me and my homeboy JT Terrell walking there with a mohawk, and my guy that ran my AU program was like, bro, that's not a good look. Like, you need a clean image. Like, he always believed hit low cuts. And I was like, bro, I'm going to wear whatever style I want. I'm that nice. Went in there, killed the camp, one of the 5 guys to get invited. So I'm like, all right, I did my dues. We literally drive 18 hours back to North Carolina in a 2-door Benz, like little. I'm in the back seats like little. We go there. I'm probably home for like that whole week. Then we got to go to Reebok U. So we drive from North Carolina right back to Philly. I'm like, bro, I'm tired of this. Like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to get on a plane or something. So we fly. Never forget, walking there the first day, you know, like it's a long line, everybody getting their gear.
Yeah.
I'm looking around like, damn, I'm right here with the guys that I've been looking at on Scout.com. So I'm like, all right, cool. So then I see Brandon Jennings and Isaiah Thomas come. Like, they skipped the whole line. Like, you know, they got a name. They've been at ABCD camp. They've been ranked and all this. They skipped the line. They getting unlimited gear. They getting shoes that we ain't getting. I'm like, damn, I got to be like them. Like, I got to get some extra gear. I got to take something back home. First game, man, it's me, Malcolm Lee, and Quincy Acey on my team. We play Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo City was there. I'm not sure. I don't want to be wrong. But I know Brandon Jennings, Isaiah Thomas was the backcourt. And, like, we going back and forth. Like, back and forth. Like, I ain't going to lie, probably like the first minute or two, I, like, always end up with the guy underneath the basket taking the ball out. And I'm like, man, I ain't taking this shit out no more. Because, you know, if you know, like, camps and stuff. Yeah, because you know, like at camps and stuff like this, you take the ball out, you ain't getting the ball back. Like, you the last one up the court, they already did their thing. So I stopped there, and I just got into a rhythm and started hooping. I'll never forget, I had a black ashy tank top underneath. Like, this one, your mom used to get you the grand black tank tops from Walmart. Like, you couldn't wear no white one. So everybody talking like, who this skinny kid? Like, who this skinny kid from Raleigh, North Carolina? I just put on the show. Like, I was hooping. We ended up losing, but it was a good-ass game. It was so lit. It was on the main court. Everybody, like, stopped the games on the other two courts and is looking over. Like, damn, who that? They hooping over there. Like, it was one of those, like, I'm like, damn, I'm in the moment of this now. And I remember I got interviewed. I'm talking about lips ashy as shit. Ashy tank top showing. And then from that day forward, it was up for there. Like, I just lived up to the rest of the camp. I started killing. And I never forget, we go to Vegas after this. It's my first time flying. Go to Vegas. I'm scared as hell anyway, because I wake up on a turbulence over the mountains. Yeah. I'm terrified. I'm like, nah, this ain't it. It started shaking. I'm like, I don't want to fly no more. And everybody was like, man, I think that was a fluke. Like, just because he killed at the camp, that was a fluke. Like, he ain't going to do it in Vegas. I kill in Vegas. So then that's where my name got the buzz in it, and the rest was history for me now.
That's crazy. So after that camp, what did you go back to scout.com and then look for your name?
Yeah, I was up there. Like, I was all up there. Like, even while I was at there, my boys called me like, bro, you on scout.com? Like, you on Rival? Like, they talking about you like you one of the biggest surprises at the camp. Like, I'm like, I told y'all, like, I knew how nice I was. I just never had the opportunity to be in front of those type of people. And like, I always told a lot of people, like, you know what I mean? Being from New York, being from L.A., being from Atlanta, being from Jersey, Philly, those type of places, like, they have that basketball mindset where they always on that spotlight, on it, and that exposure. And I feel like since what I've done, North Carolina, it's always been a basketball. It's hoop state for sure. Don't get me wrong. I didn't start it, but I feel like I gave us the buzz to be known for hoop mixtapes, Baller's Life, those mixtapes, and gave North Carolina another buzz. Then you start having guys like JT Terrell, Quincy Miller, Dennis Smith Jr., Bam, TJ Warren, Rodney Purvis. All those guys came and just started keeping it going and rocking.
That's crazy. So when you got to that camp, and you mentioned, I love hearing the other names, Brandon Jennings, Quincy Acey, and all these guys. Do you have any moves or plays in your head where you're like, man, I went at Jennings, I went at, were there any that stuck with you, with guys that we know?
The first game, going at Brandon Jennings, Isaiah Thomas, like, these guys was those guys I looked at. You know what I mean? Like, damn, these guys nice as hell. Like, I remember when I was at Bob Gibbons, I think Brandon Jennings might have been a freshman or sophomore. He was on so-called All-Star. Probably one of the best AU teams I've seen. Him, Taylor King, Malik Story, Daniel Hackett, Kevin Love, Chase Buttinger. Mm-hmm. I'm like, God damn, like, they loaded. You know what I mean? And Brandon Jennings just coming through, breaking through the press, couldn't stop him, crazy handle, crafty, getting his shots off, athletic. And I was like, damn, he's nice as hell. So when I got the opportunity to play against him, like, where I'm from, you don't back down for nobody. You accept the challenge. And I mean, not saying I got the best of him, but I think I got respect from him from that day forward. Yeah. And that's all you can ask for when you're going against top players is, like I always said, I went into that camp hunting, you know what I mean? Because I didn't have a name. I had to make a name for myself. And when I got my name, I stayed with that mentality of being the guy that was hungry. Like, I didn't want people come hunting me. I'm like, I'm still hunting y'all, even though I am that guy now.
Yeah. And I'm a sneakerhead, and so I always knew, like, there were, like, three dudes. Iverson at first, Steve Francis, and then you. I was like, oh, John Wall's a signature athlete with Reebok. Were there some people that saw you at that camp, and, like, did the conversation even start there, even though you didn't enter the league 3 years later?
Nah, it didn't. It really didn't. Like, I think I just caught a lot of people by surprise, to be honest. Me, like, I know how nice I was. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been a guy that was cold my whole life. I just never got to play outside the state of North Carolina unless I went to nationals. You know what I mean? And my team, we was good, but we wasn't, like, one of those top teams that was in the championship game or the Elite Eight every year. Like, we wasn't that good, but we had nice guys on my team. But I just always knew, like, at national, I'm going to show out. Like, they going to remember this kid, skinny kid with braids, being from Garner Road. Like, they going to remember me. And I just think it all happens in mysterious ways. But, nah, they didn't really look at me like that. Like, my AU team, high school team was Reebok. And then I think when I was coming out the draft, man, you know what I mean? 'Cause I went to Kentucky, you know what I mean? Like, there was a LeBron school, Nike, you know what I mean? And I came out of Kentucky, and they was like, yo, we feel like you can be like the next AI, like, try to get Reebok back on the map for us. And I'm like, hell yeah, like, that's my favorite player. And you know, like, anybody coming out at the time be thinking like, damn, I want to be a Nike athlete. Who do I sign with? You know what I mean? And everybody knows that. And I had to sit down with AI like 2 hours at the Reebok thing. He was like, bro, I was in the same position as you. And I was like, shit, I changed the culture for myself. I'm like, shit, I want to do the same.
Damn. Okay, this is a random ass question, which you just inspired me by. Because, yeah, everyone grew up rocking Jordans. but then you're like, oh, I'm with a company. I'm sponsored by them. I always heard the urban legend that AI was with Reebok, but he would rock like Jordan 11s at home and all that stuff. So do you? No, I don't want to hurt your money at all, but like, were you rocking other brands when you're at home because you're
you can't hurt my money at all. No, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't got no deal right. I mean, I ain't got no deal or nothing like that. But no, I didn't. Like, not gonna lie, like all my shoes, I just put them in the storage.
Yeah,
just put them in the storage. But like that's why I say shout out to OG Gil Arenas, because at that time it's like all I had was Reeboks at the time. So you know what I mean? Like, it was nothing else you really could wear. You know what I mean? And they was just like having the classics. And Swiss Beats came around. You know, all the rappers started signing to them, like Meat Mill, Swiss Beat, Rick Ross. So they started making like kamikazes and things like that, and trying to bring back some of the old schools. But Gil blessed me with a lot of designer sneakers. You know what I mean? Like, he gave me a load of designer sneakers. I was rocking the hell out of them designer sneakers. Like,
yeah, shout out to Gil. He's the one dude who's wearing like Balenciagas, Pradas.
Nah, man, Gil was wild,
crazy.
man. We could talk about that another
time. We'll have him on.
Yeah, we got to have him on. But Gil was, man, I remember my game in L.A., my rookie year, he wore Dolce & Gabbanas with no shoestrings, like straps. I'm like, bro, this guy's crazy. But we both had 30, so I'm like, shit, he could do it. I ain't trying that, though. He running in cross runners and everything.
Yeah, okay. One more thing about this story, and then we'll go to break. So people said it was a cab. That's like some Fresh Prince shit where they're like, in the theme song.
I ain't take no cab.
Okay.
Hey, let me tell you one thing.
I don't think it makes it any uncooler,
Nah, it don't make it uncool, but let me be honest. If I was going to take a cab, I might well bought a flight. Right. The flight would have been cheaper than the cab, to be honest. 18 hours? Nah, I ain't do that. It wasn't a cab, though. Okay. Nah, it was we drove down, though.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a Fresh Prince, in the theme where he hops from Philly in a cab and shows up in L.A. And I was like, man, John Wall actually did that and made a name for himself.
No, if I did that, I need all my money back. That cab ride was long as hell.
Make a movie about it. Okay, all right, we're going to take a break here, but a big point of this show is we're going to get John talking about, the current stuff that's going on in the league. Again, the insight from an actual player who's just been in the league recently is going to be dope. So, John, when we come back, I want to ask you about the dunk contest because 2014 you won, and then I also want to talk about the All-Star game because a lot of opinions floating around, and I want to know how you can fix it, or maybe you think it's cool the way it is. So when we come back on Point Game, we're going to be here with John Wall. All right, welcome back to Point Game. Now, John, we're recording this. We're right in the middle of the break, the All-Star break. Games come back on Thursday, but I was in Indy for All-Star, and I always have a good time, right? And, we know there's parties and whatnot, but, like, the programming itself. Now, you were a 5-time NBA All-Star. Like, let me reiterate that to people listening. You've been there multiple times. So what did you think about this year's All-Star? Because I think a lot of people are saying we got to fix it. We got to fix the dunk contest. Like, everything's kind of boring. So what did you watch the All-Star weekend, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, I watched it. Be honest, even when I first went my first year, it was in New Orleans. Like, I was overwhelmed. I mean, just being an All-Star, I feel like I should have been one a year earlier, and I could have had more if I didn't have the injuries I had. But, what I mean, it's all part of God's plan. But I think, like, how you look at it growing up, like, when I watched the game, like, one of my favorite games, I think it was in D.C., AI, and then was going at it to the end when they wore their real jerseys. Like, you look at it then, and it was just so competitive. Like, like, they wanted to win, and that's how I think it has to get back to. But I don't know how you get it there. I think it's hard. But when I played, like, it was competitive. Like, my first year, I did we wear the sleeve jerseys?
Yeah,
I think we wore the sleeve jerseys. Yeah, we wore the blue ones. So, like, it was a competitive-ass game. Like, I was one. I'm not saying I'm the reason why we won, but, like, I started us, like, getting back into the game and making a run. Right. That's when Kyrie won. Kyrie won MVP that year. He went crazy. He was lazy doing – but, like, it was competitive. I think Melo hit 8 threes that game. Like, it was a competitive-ass game, and I think they got to get back to that. But it's kind of hard because the league has changed. Like, I think they took, like, 71 threes as one team. The other team took, like, 60-something. Like,
right.
It's just what the game is now, though. It's like they want a lot of scoring. They want a lot of threes, and they want a lot of highlights. You know what I mean? Like, that's just what the game has evolved into now. I mean, like, I think Dame shot 23 threes, and Dame made 11 of them, but shit, he shot 2 from half court and looked like it was effortless.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's a problem with taking threes, but, like, they were uncontested, right? And like,
no, I just think, like, it's like, even just look how the start of the game goes. Like, nobody's really competing, nobody really doing nothing.
Right.
And maybe when Kobe was there, like, it was competitive. Like, Kobe wasn't bullshitting around.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's because, like, for me, I look like he's like, the All-Star game should be like a pickup game. That's what it really is. Like, you got the best 24 players that the NBA think is the best 24 right now, and they should be competing. But to each his own. I can't control like why guys don't compete, why they do. I don't know how the NBA could fix that. You know what I mean? I think that's something they all have to talk to about with the players and with those. And I remember early on when I went, not say early, but early when I went, it was like right after the All-Star game, we probably had 1 or 2 days, and we had to report back to this team. You know what I mean? Like now they give the All-Star guys an extra 4 days so they can have their own break. So I think it's a little bit different now. I don't know, like, but it's changed. The league has changed so many ways, and the All-Star game has changed. I wasn't there, and I don't know how the parties and all those accolades and things was, but like dunk contest was boring. Like it wasn't exciting at all. But I think it's hard though because so many guys have done every damn dunk you basically could do. It's like you basically got to go get like the best of the best in the league and see what they can do.
So, I mean, yeah, the dunk contest was boring. The judging, I think a lot of people had some criticism on the judging, like they weren't given, the appropriate scores. I think they said that
I agree.
Jacob Toppin,
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that for sure.
Well, and what is it? Because Jaylen Brown is like, oh, he's a star. He's going to be in the All-Star game. Do you think there was a bit of an agenda to get him to the final round?
I don't know. Maybe so. Like, I think he has some cool dunks, but it's like dunks we already seen. Right. Like, those were basic dunks. You know what I mean? Like, I know he's a freaking athlete, like Jaylen Brown, taking nothing away from him. But I think Jacob Toppin had better dunks than him. He just didn't get the scores for him. You know what I mean? And I think it's hard. It's difficult. You know what I mean? And also, like, you don't really have too many All-Stars that try to participate in the dunk contest. So that might have been a reason why they wanted to get him to the next round.
So what do you think is that reason why these bigger players don't play? Because I was watching back your 2014, and it was you and Paul George on the squad back when they did teams for the dunk contest. So why don't these bigger players do the dunk contest?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I always told the NBA, like, they asked me to do it early, like a couple years early before I did it. And I told them, I said, if I make the All-Star game this year, I do the dunk contest. Like, I wanted my first time doing a dunk contest to be an All-Star game. The team stuff was different. It was a little different for sure. I wish it could have been like individuals, but I think it was still dope. Like, we had fun. Like, it was creative. They tried to do something different and make it more exciting. I'm glad like they went back to the East versus West. I think that's the best. I think somebody came up with it. I think I seen it on Twitter, Instagram. Like, I think this is how they do it in baseball. I don't want to be wrong, but like whoever win the All-Star game gets home court throughout the finals. I think that's how you got to create stuff like that because teams want the home court in the finals. Like, you got to find ways to make it more like creative, or even when they did the point thing. Like, they remember, I liked it when they did the point thing. Like, each quarter, whoever win the quarter, they get like a bonus to like the foundation or whatever it is. And then whoever at the end, you got a target score. Like, I think that's dope. I thought that was dope. I think they have to find ways to be creative to make it a little bit more interesting because if not, it's like, I didn't even know Cat had 50.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, just being realistic, like, he had 50, and then he shot the ball 35 times off the bench. Like, that is crazy.
And it's hilarious because he can't get MVP because they got to give it to the winning team. And it's just like, at that point, I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it does. Like, anybody used to get 50 is like, all right, boom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that the second time I was in New Orleans, AD won MVP. Mm-hmm. I mean, but we in New Orleans, like AD, he had like 50, but he had all dunks. But you know what I mean? Like, we like, all right, we know they like when somebody's in a certain, like, you can see Halliburton try to go out and get MVP. Like, he started off the game 5 for 5 from 3.
Yeah, that was
like,
crazy.
I'm like, oh, he's about to go crazy. But then Dame got going. Then Dame got his going. So now I heard some people was mad that Halliburton didn't get it.
Yeah, in the arena they were like booing Dame, which is like, come on. Yeah, obviously, like, the narrative is cool. It's Tyrese, Indianapolis, but like Dame's still Dame. Dame, like, if you could shoot like that, you're hitting logo threes in the All-Star game. Keep shooting.
Yeah, but like that's what he does on the regular. Yeah. So that shit's like a walk in the park for him. You know what I mean? Like, that's somebody I'm real close with in the NBA that I'm cool with and had the opportunity to build a relationship with being with Adidas and stuff. So I don't know, man. It's just I don't know how you can fix it, to be honest. Like, I think throwing those things I said in there, like, whoever win, get home court in the finals. You know what I mean? Like, make it creative. Like, make them be like, all right, damn, like, I want home court. I gotta win.
Yeah. So with the in-season tournament, and not to get off track, but like there was an incentivize. Like, they incentivize the players, like you get $500,000 or whatever, and it was public. Fans knew that. And do you think they got to implement that? I feel like that was
dope.
Yeah.
I feel like that was dope because, like Dame said, one of the realest things, like, some of the guys that's two-way guys, or some of the guys that's might not make the money that a lot of these stars make, they want that money. Like, that's some money that they can do some stuff with to take care of their family or take care of themselves. So it put a target on their back that where everybody was competing to try to really win it. You know what I mean? So I think you have to do things like that. You have to put trademarks in there and things that's value to make you be like, yo, I gotta win. Like, I need this win. Like, I want to win this for my guys.
And you mentioned earlier with Kobe, and because a lot of people are saying like the older guys aren't, giving that message to the younger guys who are now in the All-Star game. Because Kobe, I think on a podcast, he was like, you got guys playing harder at a pickup game at UCLA in the summer, and no one's watching. Like, do you think a lot of this is on some of the vets in the game? And like, what was going on in the locker room? Like, what's the conversation? Like, is it we got to go out and win, or is it like dapping up, catching up, and just like it's a fun time?
Well, that's what you got the whole weekend for. You know what I mean? Friday, you got that. Saturday, you got the practice where you just having fun. From my experience. And I haven't been a 10, 11, 12-time All-Star, but 5 times I think that's enough to understand what really goes on. But it's like the first quarter, everybody be like, just keep it. Like, we were like first quarter, second quarter, just keep it close. Like, don't let the game get out of hand. You know what I mean? Like, keep it 10-point game, 12-point game at the best. And then, third quarter, you turn it up. And I think that's how we did it. But, like, you look at the end of the first quarter of the day, it was already down 30. Like, it's hard to keep up. But it's like, if you got one team that those guys shoot better threes. Like, if you have more guys on one team that shoot more threes better than the other team, then it's going to be hard to keep up.
Right.
And I mean, like, in the East, in the starting lineup, not too many guys are shooting threes, I think. I mean, in the West, my bad. Right. I'm sorry, in the West. I think, like, Shea made 7 out of 10, but, like, he got going a little later, you know what I mean? But I think KD made a couple. I mean, Bron really didn't shoot too many threes. Jokic didn't really shoot threes. And who was the other person?
On the West?
Yeah, Luka.
Yeah.
Luka didn't shoot too many threes. But if you look at the East, you start Damian Lillard. He came out threes. You look at Halliburton. He started the game 5 for 5. So that's 15 already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had those guys coming out shooting. Like, Giannis didn't really shoot threes. He did a couple. And then you had Bam. He made 1 or 2. And then who was the 4? Who was the 4th?
On the East?
Who's the other East? Oh, Tatum.
Tatum, yeah.
Tatum came out making threes. You know what I mean? So, like, those guys had guys shooting threes early on. That's what got them to that lead and that momentum going like that. But I don't know. I hope they can fix it. I hope they can make it more exciting for the people. And, you know what I mean? Because I enjoy watching All-Star games growing up. I enjoyed being in the All-Star game. I feel like all the ones I was in was competitive. And then I went to the last one that Kobe was in Toronto.
Yeah.
And that was real competitive. You know what I mean? Like, him and LeBron having that ISO matchup on the wing, that idol picture that everybody has. Yeah. Like,
Drake
I just
ruined
think
it.
Drake always doing the most on the sideline. But I just feel like Kobe, like, I think everybody, like, that's kind of like when Mike got in the game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, shit, they compare this, like, they dogs. Like, they not playing around. Like, kind of, I'd be honest, too. Like, when Russell Westbrook was in the All-Star game, like, he didn't mess around.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, those guys play with that one motor. They never turned it off.
Mm-hmm.
No matter if it's a pickup game, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, like, they just play like that at all times. And I think you got to have that going on if you want to bring the All-Star game back.
Yeah, I mean, we got so many guys who have embodied the Mamba mentality, but, like, it's kind of psycho energy. Bring that shit to the All-Star game. I think that is, like, a legitimate way. Like, a dude who's in the locker room, yeah, he's friends with everyone in the league, but is just, like, sitting in his locker room quiet, headphones on, is like, I'm going to go out and win this. And I think other players might follow.
Yeah, I only started one time. I feel like I should have started more, but we'll leave that for another day.
Right. Well, go ahead.
But I in the locker room, I say what up to everybody. But you know me, like, I'm really just to myself, bro. Yeah. Like, listening to my music and just chilling. And I would just follow in the lead of everybody else. But like, for me, when I play, like, I always treat it as this might be my last time ever to play basketball. You know what I mean? So I just try to give 110% effort at all times.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we were talking about the dunk contest. We had some younger players who were being asked about it, and they were saying, like, we don't need the dunk contest. We've seen it all. And they were recommending, and I think you'll love this, King of the Court, one-on-one, like replacing dunk contest with one-on-one. So what do you think? How come it's not happening? Because it seems so obvious.
It depends. It goes back to, like, do the players want to play one-on-one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do they want to really go through a King of a Court? You know what I mean? That's all it really boils down to, you know what I mean? Like, the guys that's the face of the league, the guys that has that power and say-so in the league is like, do they really want to go through that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it would be dope. They go through a one-on-one series, a 2-on-2 series, something like that. Like, I seen Gil talking about on his podcast. But it all depends. Do you really want to get through that? You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be dope and exciting. And I think we done seen a lot of dunks, but, you can still see some more. You just got to be creative. But I think it's just, like you say, it's really hard because so many dunks have been done. But you look at the Team Flight Brothers, they come up with some new dunks every other day. And I'm like, what in the world?
And I'm like, some of these.
Like, that's how I came up with the dunk I did in the dunk contest. I didn't know what to do.
That's why and tell me with the preparation, are there like consultants? Are people going to some of those professional dunkers and be like, I need a few for my bag, and like.
Literally, I didn't even like. Literally, I was doing like, because I knew it was a team, and I was like, man, I got to think of one dunk to do when I'm by myself for my one dunk, and I was gonna go behind my back like J.R. Smith did. I did it at the Chris Paul pickup game, like charity game we had during the lockout. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do that.
Those were crazy.
And one guy was working out with somebody. He was like, yo, I got this one dunk. You probably could try it. I'm like, what? He was like, the ball there. But see, a lot of people don't understand, like, when you take the ball out of somebody's the basketball out of somebody's hand, like, I double pumped it. Like, sometimes they just grab the ball and dunk it. Like, I double pumped it, so it made it more difficult. I had to get the basketball out of his hand and go down and come back up with the basketball. So a lot of people can, like, hold on to the basketball and get himself a boost and make the dunk a little easier. But he was like, yo, try. I tried it. I did it one time. I really only did that dunk twice in my life. That one time he showed me, I did it on the first try. I said, all right, this is the dunk I'm doing tomorrow night. So I'm like, I didn't really know nothing. I was like, all right. Because you got to think, if you go back to my sophomore year, I played the rookie sophomore game. I was doing dunks in that whole game. They were like, nah, you got to get him in the, Kenny Smith was like, you got to get him in the dunk contest. Like, you got to get him in the dunk contest. And I was like, all right, bro, I'll get in.
Well, some of the most obvious shit, and I love these players, so I'm not going to name names, but, like, when you jump over somebody, and this is why I'm bringing it up, because you did not jump. When you jumped over somebody, you didn't push off. To me, it's not impressive when you jump over somebody and you're clearly using their shoulder for leverage. So, like, why don't players get that?
I guess because they trying to conquer something. Like, I know I was super athletic, right? I probably can't jump over Shaq without putting my hand on his shoulder. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go to somebody that's a little shorter and make it look even more cleaner to me. That's how I would feel. But they was getting, but if somebody put their hand on the shoulder and dunk it, they'd be like, oh, they still giving them 9s and 10s. So it's like, why would I shy away from that? Then I'm like, I also don't get, like, if a guy don't make the dunk on the first or second try, why is he still getting a high score?
Right.
You know, I'm like, we done seen it 4 times already.
That's why it comes
like
down
for
to
me,
scoring.
I feel like for me, like, the craziest dunk contest I've seen in person was Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine. Like, they should have gave out 2 trophies for that one. That was amazing.
No, I think they kind of scared away Aaron because he got robbed. Not robbed. Like, the first one, it was like legit. Zach was giving it to, like, but that second
one year, Aaron didn't do too well. Then the second year he came back, he was going, like, they had the Herbal Ball spinning around under both legs. I'm like, yo. But then you got Zach going 20 legs from the free throw line. Wouldn't let women from the free throw line. I'm like, bro, just give it a tie, bro. Like, it's getting out of hand.
Well,
but like, what you feel like they could do to change, like, the All-Star weekend? Because you was there, so you know what I mean. Like, I don't know how many you've been to, but like, you was there and you was around and you experienced it. So I would like know what you think like you could change about it.
No, it's interesting because a lot of it is like the fan complaints and the fan sentiment, and so like, and I just love basketball. I love the celebration, the weekend, but like when I go to the games, because sometimes people are like there and they're skipping the games and stuff, and I'm like, this is why I'm there. And I think I'll start by saying what they did well was I thought the Steph versus Sabrina shit was cool.
Amazing.
Amazing. Like that was like a pay-per-view type thing. And I think that's let's think about this stuff through the lens of like, it's almost like let's use the weekend to answer the greatest what ifs in basketball. So it's like, constantly when people watch women's sports, they're like, can they do it as good as the men? And like Sabrina set that record in their own All-Star game, so they brought her over here. So I think we got to expand on that. And I to go back to what I was asking earlier with the incentivizing these players, because we saw it work with the in-season tournament. I'm like, I legitimately was pitching this to people this week. I was like, within the All-Star game itself, because it's like that should be the biggest event, whether it is or not, but that should be it. And I'm like, let's create little mini awards within the game. So you get like best dunk in game, longest shot, best defensive player. There's some other shit like best debut. And so you got these guys who are like, oh man, I'm not getting the ball or I'm not doing certain things. So like, I'm going to lock into that. And then you get a combination of all these players trying to go and get certain awards. And it's like, you get $200K for each of those. Now I don't know what budgets are looking like, but like, if you give players, and it'd be cool, you can have like a little bit of a post like award ceremony where people are announcing that shit, because I think people in the third quarter know who MVP is going to be. So I think stuff like that, and let's just experiment with the shit. You know, at least like I think fans love when the NBA is trying stuff, and we've seen that with the in season. We see that with other stuff, and they might fall flat on their face, but at least it's different every year.
Yeah, I believe you on this too, and I piggyback on that. I believe like the in-season tournament was dope because like early in the season, everybody like the first month or two, everybody like usually take it like easy their way into the season. Yeah. But this year you had to compete. You know what I mean? Because if you really wanted to go towards the in-season tournament, you made the games more like meaningful early on. Because usually most people say like the games really don't get competitive to right now at the All-Star break. Like now everybody trying to find a seed and like where we gonna go, where we matching up at. Like we trying to find this rhythm. You know what I mean? And I think the in-season tournament kind of gave it a little bit of more boost. Yeah. And then you got to think like 7, 8, 9, 10 got to play against each other. So are you really trying to be one of those teams that got to see Minnesota or Clippers or Denver or OKC or Boston or Philly or Milwaukee in the first round when you should be seeing them in the second or third round?
Yeah. One more question before we move on to the regular season stuff, but we were talking about King of the Court. Do you think some of these guys are scared to get exposed in King of the Court one-on-one?
Well, I don't know why you would be scared because I remember when I was at USA Basketball and they basically was playing King of the Court. They was playing mid-post, you know what I mean? Cameras that video got out. Yep. And look how lit that was. You got KD, you got Paul George, you got Devin Booker, you got Victor Oladipo was out there, Chris Middleton was out there. You had all those guys that are shot creators, tough shot makers. James Harden was out there. Like, those guys are doing it at a high level. I think, like, the league would love to see that because I remember on Boston team, they had Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. They playing ones every day after practice. You know what I mean? Like, so when you got a team like that, like I bet you Brad, D Book, and KD are playing every day. You know what I mean? I feel like in Boston, you probably still getting that. When you have those teams that, just imagine the Clippers though. You got Kawhi, PG,
Harden,
James. And Kawhi probably ain't playing though. Kawhi probably just chilling. Kawhi gonna get his work in, do what he do.
Right. He got 5 sat down. But okay, so who you named a lot of great names. Who would win if King of the Court happened next season? Who do you think would win?
I just think KD, bro. Like, there's nothing you can do with him. You know what I mean? Like, the way he's improved defensively with using his length, you know what I mean, blocking shots. I think when he took that step, that's what got him to the MVP that year. You know what I mean? Because we already knew he could score the ball. Like, there's nothing you could do. Yeah. But I just think him, bro, just because he's 7 feet and it's not a shot he can't make. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
And then you probably, in King of the Court, you probably playing 3 dribbles or at least a 5-second. Like, you can't be out there dribbling all day.
I think I agree with because the dribbling, then it just becomes sloppy. But there would be fun.
Well, if you're doing the dribbling, I'm taking Kyrie Irving, and everybody going to be mad because he got so many counters and nothing you could do. But, I think 3 dribbles, I'm taking Kevin Durant, man. It's like, I've seen a lot of great scores, watching basketball, but I think the most complete scorer I have seen at all levels is Kyrie Irving. You know what I mean? Floaters, either hand, both hands. But I think like Kevin Durant, I'm taking him every day.
So do you think like a LeBron is at disadvantage just because of his playing style in a one-on-one King of the Court?
I think he could dominate if he wants to. You know what I mean? Shit, LeBron, he's shooting the ball at a high level. Every year in his career, he got better at shooting the ball. So, like, it ain't like you can back up off of him. He can make those. Still athletic, still can blow by you. It's kind of hard to say. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he cares for a one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's not one of those guys that's going to play King of the Court. Like, what do I get out of this?
Yeah.
But I think the other guys, like Anthony Edwards, would love that type of battle. You know what I mean? Like, that type of stuff for those young guys like that. But I think it'll be exciting for sure, though.
Cool. All right, I want to talk a little bit about regular season again. Like, not every episode we'll be talking about All-Star, but we're just waiting for real basketball to come back. But again, this time between All-Star and games coming back, like you said, they added 4 days. Just stories are getting created. And I think right now what's being added to the fire a little bit is this Doc Rivers stuff. Because Doc Rivers, he took on, and I will admit too, he took on an incredibly difficult task. Adrian Griffin got fired. Doc came in. Doc was calling games 2 days before that, came in as the coach, and he's currently 3-7. And so I think what the media and fans, and it can be toxic, what they're grabbing onto is Doc has been doing these interviews, and he's just saying it's hard. Like, he's saying, I wouldn't wish this on anyone else. And I think people are acting like it's a cop-out. He's making excuses. And then it got to, like, J.J. Redick was saying stop making excuses. Pat Bev was like, come on, why are you, shitting on Doc? He saved your career. Austin Rivers went on. So, like, what do you make of this Doc Rivers situation? Do you think he's going to get it together? Do you think Doc, is a certain coach where he's not the guy to, like, take over a team with so much potential?
I'm not sure. I don't really I've played against Doc, but I never had opportunity to play for Doc. You know what I mean? So I don't know how he really is as a coach. I only can see like what I see from my point of view away from the game, or even when I was playing against him. For one, I just didn't feel like Adrian Griffin should have been fired. You know what I mean? Like, he was number 2 in the East at the time. You just gave him a nice contract. You know what I mean? And then you're still paying Mike Budenholzer. You know what I mean? So like now you're playing 3 coaches. You know what I mean? Like, but I don't know personally what was going on to make them make that decision. That's up to the front office to make that move. And maybe their players wasn't happy, maybe the front office wasn't happy, or they just wasn't meshing together. Nobody knows unless you're inside their locker room. And I think that's the most important thing for them. They're keeping it inside the locker room. Like, nobody needs to know why they made that decision, or was it his fault or his fault. Like, you don't need to play the blame game. As long as they all agreed to it and they made it and they did what's best for their organization, you got to respect it. For me, I think it's tough, though, for Doc a little bit, because you have a team that probably already had the chemistry and the camaraderie and whatever system they wanted to run from Adrian Griffin. So they probably been through that through training camp into the first, 20-some games, 30 games of the season, if I'm not mistaken. To now you got to make an adjustment to how do Doc Rivers want to run his team? What system do we have to run? Like, how do he want us to play? So it's always hard with a new coach the first year trying to get adjusted to how they want you to play. And then you got to think Dame and Giannis is trying to figure out how to play together. You know what I mean? Dame is used to being ball dominant, being in his show. Now he's with Giannis, where Giannis used to being ball dominant in his show a lot of times. You know what I mean? And then a lot of times in the fourth quarter, it would go to Chris Middleton as their closer. And now you have Damian Lillard that's bona fide one of the best closers we ever seen. And now how do you mesh all 3 of these guys together? So you go from putting all 3 of these guys into one system, and Chris Middleton coming back from injury and being in and out of the lineup, that's difficult. And then, boom, we got to switch from this one system to another system. Like, that's very difficult in one season, and they only played 10 games together. And I think Chris Middleton got injured in one of the games that Dame set out. He sprained his ankle.
Yeah.
So, like, you're trying to build this camaraderie with your team to get everybody to mesh together, but then we also trying to do it on the court. And it's like they on the spotlight because, Giannis, every year they look at you, you should be in the finals. Right. You should be trying to win another MVP. Dame, it's time for you to get a ring. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how they're looking at it. And, like, this is the move they made to help him push forward towards that. So I can't put all the blame on Doc because it's like, and you can't put all the blame on the players because we're trying to figure out how to play together still. You know what I mean? Like Giannis and Dame said they watch film together, working out together. They're trying to figure out how to make it better. And then we got to try to figure out, damn, we got to adjust to a whole new system now.
Yeah.
So, like, but it's like when you take that job, even though you might not have asked for it, the target's on your back now because you have one of the best players in the league and one of the best closers we ever seen. So they like, well, you got to figure it out. You've been in the league long enough, been around, coached a lot of superstars that you got to figure it out. And it's like they look at it as like you only won one championship with all these great teams you had.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they also look at it as like he's blown a lot of 3-1 leads. You know what I mean? So all that is the pressure they have on Doc on top of trying to figure out how to get all these new guys and new team he's coaching to get on one pedestal. But I feel like he can get it done. I feel like he's a great coach and he can figure it out.
Yeah. I
just think it takes time. It's only been 10 games, but you know what I mean? That's what happens when you're in that spot. Like, I kind of look at like when I went to the Clippers, like I feel like it wasn't fair to me. I went over there and I didn't care if I started or not. You know what I mean? That's one thing I always wanted to get clear. I just wanted to play basketball. Like, I was happy to be able to compete. And it was like, well, they got to get over the hump. They got to do this. Well, they got a big 3. And I'm like, well, it's hard because a big three pulled a start. You know what I mean? I didn't start, which is cool. Right. I was fine with that. I wasn't upset about that. I mean, but I couldn't play back-to-backs. Kawhi couldn't play back-to-backs. Then Paul George was in and out of lineup with injury. So it's like we never had an opportunity to get a rhythm, find a chemistry, and play together at the same time. Because it was all, oh, John Wall's coming in. We should be better. Mm-hmm. Kawhi's coming back. But Kawhi was coming off injury, so they had a plan for him. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like we really got to see what we really could have been. And we had glimpses of it at times. But I was on minute restriction. Kawhi was on minute restriction. So it was difficult. It was kind of tough. So I kind of look at it as like T. Lue was trying to balance out and figure out how to do it the best way he could possible. You know what I mean? And the same I feel like what Doc was doing. But I feel like they can figure it out.
Yeah. No, just to remind everyone, the intricacies of basketball, because I know the super team is definitely something that's being looked at, with the magnifying glass now, because some of the shit hasn't worked out, and it's like, just like you said, Dame came from playing in Portland for so many years where he was the guy. He never had a Giannis. And, like, to the general fan, they're like, oh, that's a luxury. But it's like, no, these guys, they had these roles they got to change. And, like, Dame got traded in late July, early August. Like, he had like a month or two, and then they got training camp. You got to figure that out for like quick, and you got to figure that out in game situations. So,
yeah,
I think it's great. Like what you had just said is a reminder, and like you said, you got added to the Clippers, and the guys weren't healthy, and the rotations were changing, and we saw it happen with Russ and the Lakers. Like, these are Hall of Famers being teamed up against each other, and we act like we didn't see the Clippers like lose 8 in a row when James got added to the team. And now they're the hottest team in the league right now. So I think, it's a long season, and it's just a great reminder. It's like chemistry and a lot to figure out.
Yeah, I just feel like everybody think like just because we're basketball players and we're nice, we all supposed to just work like this. It doesn't work like that. Like, it takes time. You know what I mean? Like, Kawhi and PG had to get used to James having the ball most of the time now. You know what I mean? Like, now he's running pick and roll and doing a hell of a job. Like, he's one of the best passes in the pick and roll. You know what I mean? Like, but now James took the back seat of, okay, I'm not going to score as much unless those guys are having an off night or unless I have to turn it up a notch.
Yeah.
But most of the time, he's probably getting 10 or 12 points, but he's getting 10, 11 assists. You know what I mean? Like, he's orchestrating their offense, running their team, and he's getting those guys rolling. But I think, like, everybody just bought into it. Like, everybody has to buy into the system and buy into what's going on. And it's easier said than done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they got James in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It ain't like they got him at the start of the season where he went through a whole training camp with them. Like, they're using the season as their training camp to get him acclimated with everything. And it's difficult. It's not as easy as everybody think. Like, it's not. Like, even when I was with the Clippers, like, T. Lue, hell of a coach, all that, it's like it just was difficult because it's times he wanted to play me more, but I only could play 20 and 22 minutes. You know what I mean? It's times where I want to play more, and I'm frustrated because I feel like I should be in right now, but I can't. I'm at a minute restriction. It's times when certain guys feel like they're playing well in practice, should be getting more minutes. You know what I mean? Like, it's always a difficult thing, and that's why I be saying, as a coach, you got to do a hell of a job. Like, you got to set your foundation, and also as GM, they got to do a hell of a job because just because I'm nice and you nice don't mean our games mesh together. You know what I mean? Like, we got to really study the game, understand, like, okay, are they really going to be able to feed off each other the right way? Can he make him better, or is he going to make our team worse? Mm-hmm. And I think we got to do a lot of more studying of doing that. Like, a lot of talent is out there. We're not saying there's not a lot of talented guys, but can a lot of talented guys accept the role? And can a lot of talented guys, like, be veterans to some of these young guys? Like, I feel like the league need more veterans in the league. And not just saying because I'm out of it. I just feel like we need more vets for these young guys. And that's a point to where the GM and the coach got to be like, you know what? I'm just bringing you in to be a great vet. Like, you might not play. Are you cool with accepting that role? And I think the more we're upfront and honest, like they want us to be honest with them, it makes everything much more easier for your team, and y'all can go a long way.
Yeah. All right, we got to take a break. I do want to, in this podcast, get more in depth with your time with the Clippers in Houston because I feel like it's a little bit misunderstood. But we'll talk about it. We're going to do a lightning round game when we come back that we came up with called Bucket or Brick. We're going to get your thoughts on some of the other storylines happening in the NBA right now. So when we come back, Bucket or Brick with John Wall. All right, welcome back to Point Game with John Wall and C.J. Toledano. This is a really fun game that we've practiced before, but this is a lightning round type game where we're going to ask John, we're going to say a statement about the NBA, and if John agrees, he's going to say bucket, and if he disagrees, he's going to say brick and then explain why. But first, Bucket or Brick is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook is your home for all things NBA action, from player props to same-game parlays. Check out everything DraftKings Sportsbook has to offer to make your NBA experience even sweeter. The crown is yours. All right, John. So we were talking about the Clippers in the last act. Your last team, I said they're the hottest team in the league right now, and I think they have the third best odds to win the title at plus 500, which means if you bet 100, you would win 500 if they win the title. So, bucket or brick, the Clippers will win the title this year.
Brick.
Okay.
I think Brick. It's kind of hard because I want to say bucket, then I want to say Brick because they are the hottest team. Hell of a coach in T. Lue, you know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's doing. He's done it before. I know Kawhi's the closer. He's won 2 Finals MVPs. I just think they need a full year together to, like, get what they really want out of it. But I think they're going to have a chance to get close, though.
A lot of people are saying, the Clippers kind of fall apart in the playoffs, and a lot of that is health. So, like, how much do you think that's on their mind, where they're like, we just got to stay healthy and get there?
I think health is always the key to any team. You know what I mean? Like, being healthy going into the playoffs and going to the finals is the key to any team. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that it's luck. Like, you got to have some luck to win a championship. Healthy and playing well at the right time. But I think it's just like a burden, like a lot of pressure on the Clippers. You know what I mean? Like, because everybody feel like with Kawhi and PG, they should have been to the finals or won one by now. But like you said, like it's always been an injury in the playoffs, injury here, injury there. Or then you have the bubble, you know what I mean? Like, where a lot of guys probably just checked out. Like, right. I didn't go to the bubble, but I know that would have been difficult being there, away from your family, not doing nothing but the same stuff constantly over and over. So I think that's a pressure there and a burden there, but they have the team, they have the talent, they have the depth, they have the coaching staff to be able to win it all. So that's why it was kind of hard to say brick, because I wanted to say bucket. But I feel like they get a whole year on themselves of knowing what they want to do. I think they'll get one.
I'll ask you later on this season, and I think, your opinion might change. So,
yeah.
Okay, next one.
I see a little bit more how the second half of the season go, and I'll probably change.
Okay, bucket or brick. This rumor's been going around, but the Lakers should sign Trae Young this summer.
Bucket. I think bucket. I feel like Trae's done a lot in Atlanta. He's very talented, man. You know what I mean? Like, he's one of those guys that it's hard to guard. You know what I mean? In the league now, you can't touch anybody. He's crafty. He can shoot, can pass. And I think they got to kind of start preparing for, like, if LeBron's last year is this year or next year, whenever it is, that you got another star player next to AD. And I feel like a pick and roll with AD and a guy like Trae Young could be deadly. You know what I mean? Look how he's made Capella look and all these other guys. So I think that'd be a good move for them. Okay.
Next one, bucket or brick. The Warriors should re-sign Klay Thompson, because I think people are saying that Klay has been going through a little bit of a fall-off. So Warriors re-signing Klay Thompson this summer.
I'm going to say both, but I'm going to tell you why. It's 50-50, because if they want Klay to come off the bench, I don't think he's willing to accept that role.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he might take a pay cut, but I don't think he want to be able to accept that role coming off the bench. You know what I mean? But I think if he takes a pay cut and start, I think he's willing to stay with the Warriors. But that's a decision they got to make as a front office. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of think they have been going ups and downs, because it's difficult when you've been at this spotlight and been at the level where he's been at for so long and won championships, and you have 2 major injuries. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then some days you have your days that you feel good. Some days you don't have your days. Like, I've been there, and it's kind of difficult. And I think he responded well, though, coming off the bench and having a hell of a night and helping them win that game. And you just got to kind of see how the second half of the season goes.
Do you think any of that is due to, like, maybe there's a change of scenery, or like I don't know, a fatigue on a dynasty team? Like, they've been trying to figure out their bench and whatnot. Like, do you think Klay just needs that change of scenery? And not to talk about the Lakers again, but, like, if he was to end up on the Lakers next year, a team that he grew up loving, his dad played from, do you think there would be any resurgence there?
I think so. You know what I mean? Sometimes you might need a change of scenery. You never know. But also, I think it's kind of difficult now, because you have the young fella, John Kuminga, that's taking the next step. And now, instead of Klay being the second option, it's John Kuminga being the second option. You know what I mean? So kind of when you throw the ball to him in the post, he's not just waiting and holding the ball for pin downs for Steph and Klay. He's been aggressive and trying to go score. So now it kind of puts Klay into the third option, maybe fourth option, if you want to say at times. And I think that's something he's trying to adjust to in the middle of a season, instead of, like, because early on in the beginning of the season, there wasn't a role for John Kuminga. You know what I mean? He kind of got into that role later on, because his name was buzzing a lot during the trade deadlines and seeing if they was going to move him, because a lot of teams wanted him.
Yeah.
And I know how special and talented he is. He came to my John Wall Holiday Invitational tournament and played. He played against one of the best high school teams I think I've seen, with Mount Vernon, with Scotty Barnes and Cade Cunningham and them. And he did well. You know what I mean? He's talented, gifted, got a lot of stuff. I just said, like you said, like, the Warriors didn't know which way they wanted to go. Keep young talent keep the big three together and keep trying to build. So they're figuring it out, and I think Mike Dunleavy do a hell of a job with that, and Steve Kerr.
Okay. All right, final bucket or brick, and I've been actually reading some stories on this, and I think, you answered as honestly as you want, but the bucket or brick, the Phoenix Suns should sign you.
Bucket. I'm going to keep it G. Not just because, like, and this is what I want to get across the chest for anybody. Like, I don't care about chasing the ring.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I get one, thank you. But I feel like I've showed how talented I am in this league, how good I am in this league. I just love to play the game of basketball. You know what I mean? Like, I still feel like I have enough in the tank to play. It might not be at the highest level like I was playing 38 to 40 minutes before, but I feel like I can do a lot. I'm a better catch and shoot guy than a lot of people think. Like, I didn't get a lot of those in my career, but when I do, I shoot like 40% from catch and shoot. But I just feel like they need a true point guard, you know what I mean, to help those guys just settle in. Like, D Book's doing a hell of a job playing point. Brad does it at times. But those guys are bona fide scorers. You know what I mean? Like, you put the ball in anybody's hands for 38 minutes, they're going to have 9, 10 assists. I mean, they're just making the right play playing basketball. But I think those guys just need to be bona fide scorers and don't worry about keeping the next guy happy. That should be a true point guard's position. Let the scorers be scorers.
Yeah, that's why I want you back in the league. We see the players' evolution, right? And so I don't think we've really honestly gotten to see the role player evolution for you. And like you said, and I guess let me ask you this. Are you still talking to Brad? Is Brad, hitting you up? Are you guys talking at all about possibilities? Or are you guys just still, talking as friends?
No, we just talk from time to time. Like, I don't even try to put that pressure or burden on them about it. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm in the city, like I was in L.A., visiting and they was playing, I went to go visit the game. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not putting that pressure on him or KD or D Book. Like, I'm cool with all those guys. But they focus is locking in on the season right now. You know what I mean? Like, if the front office come to them and be like, do you want to sign him? I hope they would say yeah. But if the front office is not doing that, then I'm not going to try to put that burden on them guys and put that pressure, because now I look at it as like, oh, damn, you ain't trying to get me signed and I don't want to be your homeboy. Like, that's never going to come between you know what I mean? Like, that's not their role. That's not their job. But I just feel like I can help them out a lot. You know what I mean? I feel like I could.
Right.
You know what I mean? And maybe if it's not this year, maybe next year, you know what I mean? Hopefully, you never know what can happen. But I just sit back and look. Like, I'm like, you can't make a point guard. Like, point guards are made. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just try to build a point guard to be a true point guard. Like, those guys are made. And I think you look at the Clippers, at times they wanted PG and Kawhi to kind of be like, run a lot of pick and rolls, be their point guards. Those guys are bona fide bucket getters. Like, they might get you 4 assists, 6 assists if you double teaming them, but those guys are bona fide bucket getters. And I think that made their role so much more easier. James is the one that's facilitating, running the team, getting everybody their shots when they need to, and we're going to carry the load on the scoring end.
All right. Well, John, man, this has been exciting. Like, I want you to get signed, but I'm happy you're here with us. And we're doing this thing for the rest of the season, so keep checking out Point Game, presented by DraftKings. I'm C.J. Toledano. Shout out to my co-host, John Wall. Guys, if you like this podcast, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on everything. Share the clips that have been coming out. Follow all of our socials. I've been C.J. Toledano. This has been John Wall. See you next time. Peace.